Welcome back to the Retro Vault, where we'll be looking at and diving into stories from games of old. In this installment, we're going to stay in the PS2 era and look at the story behind another of my absolute favourite games growing up, Capcom's 2005 action-adventure game, Shadow of Rome. I loved this game so much when I was younger that to this day I've tried to find a game set in Rome that I actually love as much as I did this one, but I haven't found one. This game had two protagonists, the Roman general Agrippa and the nephew of Julius Caesar, Octavianus, both real-life and very important historical figures in Roman history. The game's standout moments came through the glory of the gladiatorial games, with enough event variation to keep it interesting. Agrippa would dismember his foes and would appeal to the bloodthirsty crowd in order to receive elite weaponry, armor, or food in order to heal him. It's a shame that YouTube is the way it is, as I had to play through this game with the gore off. But trust me, playing this game with the gore on, well, it's something. Please be aware that this game is fiction. As mentioned, there are some similarities to real-life history, but I'd say 90% of the story is dramatized. Lastly, before we jump in, please note that there will be spoilers in this video for Shadow of Rome, so please bear that in mind. Let's begin. First, let's paint a picture. In pre-Christian era Rome, the empire had grown too big too fast, and the rule of the elders of the Senate had been weakened. During this time, the Roman army were involved in many fierce battles against the armies of Germania, who wished to take Roman territories for themselves. Then came Julius Caesar, the former Roman general. Caesar had previously been in Gaul and had just experienced an exceptional military campaign. But he ended up waging civil war against one of his political opponents, Pompey or Pompeius, who, along with members of the Senate, the Roman Republic's governing body who opposed Caesar, wanted him to disband his army and return to Rome to live life as a civilian. Caesar obviously disagreed and ended up engaging Pompey's army in a bloody campaign that was fought across Italy, Spain, Greece, and North Africa. Pompey was killed in battle, and due to his death, Caesar had effectively won the civil war and returned to Rome, becoming Dictator Perpetuo, which means dictator for life. As the quality of Roman civilian life had declined, Caesar came in and alleviated most of the problems plaguing Roman society. Many social and political reforms were carried out. But then on the 15th of March 44 BC, a date now known as the Ides of March, Julius Caesar was assassinated, stabbed 23 times. His final words, although widely disputed, were "Et tu, Brute." And this leads us on to the main story for Shadow of Rome. Now, as there are two paths and two protagonists, we'll jump from story to story, but we'll do so in a way that we don't break up the narrative too much. High-ranking centurion, Agrippa, one of the generals of the legion's armies, is stationed in the northeastern section of the Roman province. The area is near to the borderlands of Germania. It's widely thought that due to the rapid and ever-increasing population growth in ancient Germania, their people needed to expand into new territories, and those new territories they had set their eyes upon were those that had already been claimed by the Romans. The wealth and advancement of technology of the Romans was a bonus too. So the Roman army sent out soldiers to defend these lands and to secure the realm. Agrippa and his men, however, make up part of a reconnaissance troop that have been sent out to enemy territory, as a group of Roman messengers have gone missing. This is vital, as the messengers would have been carrying confidential information. An officer, Marius, approaches him and shows him a satchel that belonged to one of the Roman messengers, meaning that the messengers may have been captured by the enemy. With it not being long since they left, Agrippa orders his men to separate and look for the missing men. With it mysteriously quiet, they agree to move on. However, the Germanic soldiers spring a surprise attack. But due to their superior skill, the Romans quickly dispatch their enemies. Looking at a map taken off the Germanians, Agrippa discovers that their fort is nearby, so they set off. Making their way through the forests and taking out any enemies they encounter on the way, Agrippa and his men eventually see what's left of a Roman guard unit having been ambushed. Avoiding another Germanic soldier, Agrippa and his men come upon the fort. Gaining entry, they fight their way through it. Thankfully, Roman reinforcements arrive and set about fighting the Germanic soldiers. A fierce and bloody battle takes place, and while it's raging, Agrippa heads through it in order to find their missing men. He reaches a jail area, but after freeing the barely alive messenger, he relays the message that Caesar has been assassinated. They are confronted by the general of the Germanic army, Barca. The guy is very strong, but Agrippa is much more agile and well trained and is able to defeat Barca. He doesn't kill him though, despite Barca's pleas for him to do so. Barca is taken away and captured by the Roman army. With their mission complete, Agrippa tells Marius the news about Caesar, and with that, they return to Rome. Meanwhile, back in Rome, a young man named Octavianus, who is actually the nephew of the late Caesar, is running through the streets of Rome and arrives at the cremation of Julius Caesar, which is being held at the Foro Romano, or the Roman Forum. A veiled woman also watches on, seemingly unimpressed by hearing the Roman senator Cicero addressing the crowd. He tells the crowd that the Senate have found the man responsible for murdering Caesar. To everyone's surprise, the killer is named as Vipsanius, a well-known and respected man, and a man that was also once a loyal soldier to Julius Caesar. He's also Agrippa's father. He's labelled as the traitor of Rome. Cicero then goes on to announce Antonius as the new ruler of Rome. Antonius stands in front of the people of Rome, announcing that he will dedicate his life to the glory of Rome. Rapturous applause erupts from the watchers on. However, Octavianus is dumbfounded. Speaking to the various senators in the area, they say that legality and justice are the foremost goals in the Senate. Octavianus then heads to the Senate House. There, he speaks with various civilians who are having a hard time believing that Vipsanius is really the murderer of Caesar. Octavianus is not allowed access to the Senate House as the Roman guards block him from entering. Cicero arrives and tells Octavianus that he witnessed Vipsanius killing Caesar and that Vipsanius had Caesar's blood on his hands. He leaves, saying that they are due to have a Senate meeting imminently. A mysterious man speaks with Octavianus. He's called Pansa. At Pansa's house, he tells Octavianus that he cannot continue to be so reckless, that he needs to be more careful in his pursuit of the truth. He offers to help Octavianus, offering to mentor him, teaching him in the ways of sneaking and stealth so that he can sneak into the Senate and find out who really killed Caesar. He reveals that he was once the most trusted agent of Caesar. He teaches Octavianus about avoiding detection, to not stand out by using disguises to blend in, and finally to keep a cool head, as guards and people around him will inevitably become suspicious of him at some points. Heading to the Forum, Octavianus sees a situation unfolding that he could use to his advantage. Centurions are unhappy about their pay, so they are confronting a member of the Senate about it. He stands firm on his refusal to grant the soldiers a 30% bonus, stating that they cannot afford to do so. The soldiers speak about how they have been fighting for 3 years and haven't been paid for it. They call the government corrupt and say that they have debts to pay. Octavianus then heads into the Senate House. Again, his entry is blocked, and remembering the advice of Pansa, he needs to get creative. Using his knowledge of the soldiers' disgruntlement over military pay, he tells a guard that the army has gone on strike for unpaid wages, and fearing that he'll miss the strike action, the guard leaves his post and heads straight for the Forum. This allows Octavianus an opportunity to slip inside. Making his way through the building, being careful not to get caught by the people and the guards, inside, Octavianus knocks out a member of the Senate and takes his toga. Now successfully blended in, he heads back outside and approaches the Roman guard in front of the Senate House. Thanks to his disguise, he is now granted access. Now inside the Senate House, he reaches the Hall of Pompey and overhears a conversation between two members of the Senate who appear to be worried about something. He also finds a letter from Vipsanius to Caesar. He appeared to warn Caesar about rumours that someone from within the Senate wished to do him harm, and Vipsanius urged Caesar not to walk anywhere on his own. A rather odd letter to send to someone you were plotting to kill, no? Arriving at the Senate meeting, Octavianus listens in intently. Cicero addresses the Senate and says that Vipsanius has been sent to a prison in Syracuse. One of the senators demands that Vipsanius be executed, as that is what the people of Rome will demand. Antonius' secretary Macanus speaks up, and he has a proposal. He proposes the idea of gladiatorial games being held in Caesar's honour. At that announcement, murmurs begin to echo around the Senate chamber. Macanus then goes on to say that the winner of those games will earn the right to be Vipsanius' executioner. Antonius likes that idea. The subject then moves on to Vipsania, who is Vipsanius' wife, and of course, Agrippa's mother, with the Senate agreeing that she is also to be executed in the Forum in front of the public. Antonius agrees. Octavianus then leaves the Senate House, worrying about what he should do next. Agrippa then arrives back in Rome. Desperate to speak with his friend, Octavianus gets Agrippa's attention and gives him the awful news that his father is being charged with the assassination of Julius Caesar and that his mother is to be executed. Agrippa then heads for the Forum to try and prevent his mother's execution. At the Forum, the veiled woman is there, as is a man named Decius, another of the generals in the Roman army. However, he's a sick and twisted man. He orders his men to execute Vipsania. Agrippa arrives just in time and prevents the execution of his mother. However, this is only temporary, as after defeating the Roman soldiers, Decius kills Agrippa's mother in front of him. Enraged, Agrippa challenges Decius to a fight, but Decius is simply too skilled and too strong for Agrippa, and simply put, he kicks his ass. Octavianus, feeling powerless, hears the sound of horses and a cart, and the veiled woman enters the Forum, telling Agrippa to get aboard, and Octavianus goes with them. Arriving in the countryside in Syracuse, at relative safety, Agrippa laments his mother and the inability to save her. The woman introduces herself as Claudia. Agrippa wants to storm the prison and speak to his father, but Octavianus says that he will sneak in, and once he's inside, he will find a way to get Agrippa in. So, they both set off for the prison. Sneaking through the area, avoiding any patrolling guards, Octavianus eventually reaches a suitable area to let Agrippa inside. With them both now in the prison, they reach Vipsanius' cell. Agrippa talks to his father and tells him that he was patrolling the hall of Pompey and he heard Caesar's scream. Running to the source of the sound, Vipsanius found Caesar dead. At that point, Cicero walked in, and just as he'd said, it looked a lot like Vipsanius was the killer of Caesar, as he had blood on his hands, hence why he was then arrested. Octavianus reflects on the last words of Caesar, "Et tu Brute," but not for long, as they are confronted by guards. Vipsanius tells Agrippa and Octavianus to go, as they need to uncover the truth. And this is where having Agrippa comes in handy, as he fights off the guards, and after, he and Octavianus are able to make their escape. Meeting back up with Claudia again, Octavianus explains that the words "et tu Brute" refer to Brutus, indicating that there was more than one murderer, and that this Brutus may have been someone that Caesar trusted. Octavianus says that he'll return to Rome in order to try and prove Vipsanius' innocence. Claudia says that Agrippa, due to what happened at the Forum, cannot return to Rome. She says that her brother Sextus runs a stable, and asks if Agrippa would be interested in becoming a gladiator. Octavianus is opposed to this, but Claudia reminds him that the winner of the gladiatorial games will be able to earn the right to become Vipsanius' executioner. Therefore, Agrippa will potentially be able to rescue his father if he wins all of his bouts in the arenas. She explains that General Decius plans to participate in the final battle. Despite Octavianus' protestations, and in line with his desperation for revenge on Decius, Agrippa accepts. They are immediately set upon by a tribe of barbarians, but Agrippa and Claudia team up and end up defeating them whilst Octavianus sets off for Rome to find the truth. After they're defeated, Agrippa says that this is his chance to avenge his mother and rescue his father. He asks Claudia to take him to see her brother, so they depart. At the stable, Agrippa watches the men training. He is introduced to Sextus, who says that he fully expects Agrippa to sacrifice his life for the entertainment of the crowd. He asks him if he's ready, and Agrippa says that he is ready to fight. Heading to a training arena, Sextus has Agrippa fight some men, and after defeating them and defeating Claudia too, Sextus is impressed enough to allow Agrippa to enter the qualifying rounds. Speaking with Claudia, she introduces him to Dama. He's a veteran of the arena. He's also Agrippa's roommate. She says that Sextus wishes to speak with him. Speaking with Sextus, he says that the tournament is to begin in the next couple of days, and this is a great money-making opportunity for him, one that he does not wish to miss out on. They'll be leaving soon as the first preliminary match will be held outside of Rome, and Sextus has already registered Agrippa as a competing gladiator. They leave for the qualifiers. The time has come for Agrippa's first test. The first event is a battle royale. Agrippa simply needs to stay alive. Entering the arena, Agrippa gets to work, slaying his enemies for the delight of the crowd. He emerges victorious. The following day, Agrippa is entered into the second event, which is an elimination battle. He is public enemy number 1 and will be outnumbered. Entering the arena, his opponents are no match for him, and he defeats them all. The third and final event is against tigers. Entering the arena, he slays all of the hungry beasts and once again emerges from the arena victorious. In the meantime, Octavianus has arrived in Rome and gets to work. Speaking with Pansa, he says that Cicero, who remember is the head of the Senate, has a protege who goes by the name Marcus Brutus. Panzer says that Cicero should be at the Senate House, so Octavianus heads off. Now, since Caesar's death, it appears that the Senate has already reversed one of his promises to the people, which was a monetary gift. This has annoyed the citizens of Rome to no end, so using this to his advantage, Octavianus riles up a bunch of angry citizens who march upon the Senate House to voice their anger. With the guards now distracted, Octavianus enters the Senate Gardens. He immediately spots Cicero. Being careful not to be noticed, he tails him. Following him through the Senate halls, he eventually speaks with a guard who is posted outside a door. The guard says he's been waiting for him, and Cicero tells the guard not to let anyone else in until he comes out. Naturally, Octavianus needs access to the room and to observe what's going on in the room, so using a passage between rooms, he eavesdrops the conversation. The man he's speaking with talks about an execution having been delayed because of the games and because of protests. It seems that Cicero is very eager for Vipsanius to be executed as soon as possible. Cicero then leaves, saying he's off to go and see Marcus Brutus. Following him once again, Octavianus enters the Hall of Pompey, where Caesar was assassinated, and eavesdrops the conversation between Cicero and Marcus. Asked if he's mourning Caesar's death, it seems that Marcus had a grudge against Caesar for always alienating him, stating that he's happy he's dead. Cicero warns Marcus to watch his mouth. Cicero asks Marcus about him sneaking off into the taverns every night and asks him what he's been up to. Following up on this lead, Octavianus later arrives at the tavern that is frequented by Marcus. Gaining entry, he sneaks through the tavern and sees an irate Marcus bang his fist on the table, and then he leaves. Outside, Octavianus hears the man Marcus is with, called Cassius, telling him that there are many within the Senate who believe that Vipsanius is innocent and that it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out. Marcus basically says that he doesn't care, and Cassius runs after Marcus, saying that he must take responsibility. Following them through the streets, Octavianus comes to an area which is guarded and patrolled by a gang of bandits. Taking one of them out and using his clothes as a disguise, Octavianus manages to pass through. Octavianus comes to a tree and sees that Cassius has been stabbed and killed. Hearing voices approaching, he hides. Mecaenas walks in with guards and tells them to carry Cassius's body away, and that they should not tell anybody that this happened. He looks over at the tree Octavianus is hiding behind, as if he knows that he's there. Meanwhile, at the city arena, Agrippa is ready for the second group of events. The first of 3 events is to destroy statues as a team. Agrippa and 2 friends are on the blue team, and the red team will try to destroy their statues. The first to destroy all 3 statues belonging to the other team wins. After a hard-fought victory, Agrippa's team triumphs. The second event is a siege. Agrippa is on his own and needs to defeat the enemy ranks, making his way to the leader. Killing the leader will win the battle. Winning that one, Agrippa enters the final event, which is a battle against a single opponent, who has also made it that far, so he'll be tough. Entering the arena to face his opponent, Agrippa is shocked to see that he'll be fighting Barca for the second time. The 2 face off, and although Barca is tough, Agrippa bests him once again. With Barca dying on the ground, the baying crowd want blood, so Agrippa gives them what they want. Disgusted at their bloodlust, Agrippa turns to them and asks them if they're satisfied. After resting up back at the stable, Agrippa speaks with Dama, who says that Sextus is waiting for Agrippa in his office. Going to see him, he says that they are to head out again soon, as the second preliminary matches have been scheduled. They'll be held at an arena in the north, and Agrippa has been registered for the matches. They leave and set out for the northern arena. It's dark and cold there in the northeastern territories of Rome, but still, the spectators have travelled in large numbers to witness another blood-soaked spectacle. In the first event, Agrippa has to rescue a hostage. Simple enough. Battling through, slaying his opponents, he rescues the man who is the hostage, and the event is won. Agrippa wins his next 2 events as well. Another elimination battle, and also a battle royale. But this one's a bit different, as barrels lay around the arena, and Agrippa can use fire in order to more easily kill his opponents. Despite winning those 3 rounds, the fighting is not done yet, as Agrippa still has another round of matches to fight through and win. He fights through the next 2 matches. One is another team battle to destroy the statues, and the other is an event known as Artus Dominus. Agrippa is up against a red opponent, and they both need to try and kill as many enemies as possible in the time frame in the most brutal ways possible. But it's time for the final round. It's another battle royale. However, this one is surprisingly easy. After winning this round, Agrippa stands exhausted but victorious. General Decius looks on. A vulture swoops in, revealing that Agrippa's fight is not yet over. he must face Arcanus, one of Decius's elite fighters, one of a group called the Valcross. Thankfully, Agrippa receives a helping hand in the form of Claudia, and the two team up to fight the elite warrior. They ultimately prevail, and whilst she is dying, Arcanus, in a last-ditch effort, attempts to kill Claudia by throwing a dagger at her, but Agrippa saves her. Decius, on the other hand, is furious. He then realises that the man who killed Arcanus is Agrippa, and Decius vows to make him pay. Back at the stable, Sextus speaks with Agrippa, and he thanks him for saving Claudia's life. He tells Agrippa that he and Claudia are not really brother and sister, as they've only known each other for about 10 years. He gets called away but gives Agrippa a pendant to give to Claudia. Heading to the training grounds, he gives her the pendant, and she says that she decided to become a gladiator in order to become stronger. She explains that her little brother was killed by a Roman soldier, and all she could do was watch, helpless. She wants to be able to protect the people she cares about, and she then leaves. Meanwhile, Sextus is speaking to some twins. Seems he's been asked to kill someone in Rome on the orders of their mistress. They speak of her being able to assist him in his plans if he carries this assassination out, and Sextus accepts her request. Speaking with Panzer, Octavianus says that he wishes to meet Maecenas in order to find out more about why Cassius was killed. Panzer says that he saw Maecenas not long ago in the square, so Octavianus heads there next. Marius is stationed there as a guard. You will maybe remember that he was an officer serving under Agrippa in the war, and he speaks of his belief that Vipsanius is innocent. He says that he's been conducting his own little investigation into what happened, and that if he finds anything out, he'll let Octavianus know. He says that Maecenas went to the estate of Antonius after he finished his speech, so Octavianus sets off for the estate. Arriving, Octavianus gains access. The estate was actually formerly owned by Pompey, and Antonius claimed it for himself after he was killed. Even though Pompey was at one point his enemy, Caesar objected to the taking of the estate by Antonius. But anyway, entering the large home, Octavianus sneaks through it, avoiding the many guards patrolling its hallways. He sneaks through the Roman baths and arrives at the heart of the estate, Antonius's garden. It seems that Decius has a room there, which too is heavily guarded. Moving further through the estate, Octavianus spots Maecenas and goes after him. Finding more crafty ways to sneak through the estate undetected, including dressing up as a maid, Octavianus gains access to a room inside which he listens to a conversation between Antonius and Decius. Antonius speaks of Agrippa slaying Arcanus. Decius displays his false disgust at Agrippa entering a gladiatorial contest so soon after his mother was executed. Antonius then winds Decius up by saying that a lowly gladiator killed one of his elite. Decius pleads that Agrippa be allowed to compete in the upcoming events, which are chariot races. Antonius accepts and says that he'll send a message to Maecenas to arrange it. Decius expresses his gratitude, and Maecenas approaches, and he's clearly been listening in. Octavianus continues to follow him, being careful not to be seen. He listens to a conversation between Maecenas and another senator, who is angrily stating just how much the qualifying rounds are costing the city to host. Maecenas basically says that it's nothing to do with him, as he just follows the orders of Antonius. Further on, Octavianus follows Maecenas into a room, but it's revealed that he's known all along that he was being followed. He advises him to leave immediately, but he plays dumb when it comes to why he hid Cassius's body, but he does say that he hid it because the news of him being murdered would take attention away from the games. He warns Octavianus to stop prying as he'll regret it, and Maecenas then leaves. Just as Antonius has requested, Maecenas went to Sextus's stable and told him of Antonius's request. Agrippa walks in and is introduced to Maecenas, who then leaves. Agrippa speaks with Sextus, who confirms that the next set of events are to be chariot races, and that they have been invited under special circumstances, and that Maecenas himself has personally requested that Sextus's stable to be the one to compete in the events. Naturally, Sextus is delighted, because of the money obviously, but Agrippa is slightly nervous as he's never had to handle a chariot before, let alone a racing chariot. Despite his obvious reservations, Agrippa tells Sextus that he's ready to depart. Arriving at the Circus Maximus in Rome, a purpose-built chariot racing arena, Agrippa enters the first event. The race is pretty straightforward: win the race by any means, and he does so. The second race is a bit more challenging though, as there are narrow sections of the track which can cause accidents if not handled properly. Nonetheless, Agrippa handles it and wins the race. He then goes on to win the third race too, not bad for a beginner. But it's time for the final race. As expected, the final race is against one opponent. This is the reason why Sextus's stable was requested for one of the Valcross to get revenge on Agrippa on Decius's behalf. This member of the Valcross, named Narclistes, is said to be invincible behind the reins, and he's, well, flashy to say the least. Also to be expected, he's not really interested in winning the race, as his orders are to kill Agrippa. However, it does not go to plan, as Agrippa is able to defeat him. Narclistes then feels the wrath of the furious general as he kills him for failing in his task. Back at the stable, Agrippa learns from his mates that Claudia is apparently really upset. Tracking her down, he overhears her arguing with Sextus. She's angry at him for accepting that Agrippa be entered into the chariot races. He says he did it for them, and he demands that Claudia leave. Checking up on Claudia, she says that after her brother was killed, she was sold as a slave in Rome and Sextus bought her. She thinks that she reminds him of his dead younger sister. He raised her and she is very grateful for it, but she says that Sextus has changed lately. But sometimes later, it seems that the next stop for Sextus's stable is Africa. Dama is excited, as that's his homeland. Speaking with Sextus to tell him that he's ready to depart, they set off. Arriving at the desert arena in the barren wastelands of Carthage, this set of matches are the final preliminary matches. It's ridiculously hot, but once again the crowds are very large, bustling with people who are eager to witness some brutality. Winning the first event, a battle royale with flame traps, the second event, a battle against more tigers, and another event to destroy the statues, Agrippa has battled through the first set of matches. Naturally though, there are more matches to fight through, so Agrippa battles through another Artus Dominus and gets more kills than his opponent. He then fights his way to victory in the next event, which is an elimination, which is basically kill them all. Time for the final round. If Agrippa makes it through this one, he'll be in the finals. An exotic beast has been imported from abroad, and entering the arena, Agrippa and Decius stare each other out, and then an elephant enters the arena. Sat atop of it is Ascari, the final member of the Valcross and their best fighter. Battering away at the beast's ankle armor, it shatters, and Agrippa is able to do some real damage. Hacking and slashing away at the elephant, it's finally killed, and Ascari fights Agrippa on the ground. He's pretty agile, but brute force and aggression wins out this time, and Agrippa kills him. Back at the stable, Sextus throws a party for Agrippa in celebration of him making it to the final stages of the tournament. But rather suspiciously, Sextus is not there. Speaking with Claudia, she drops a bombshell that Sextus is a pirate who plans to destroy Rome. The whole gladiator thing is just a front. It turns out that he's the son of Pompey, who remember Caesar's troops killed in battle. What's more is that Sextus has gone to Rome to assassinate Octavianus. He wants to overthrow Rome. Agrippa is frustrated, but Claudia says that she needs to stop him for his safety more than anything, as he'll be killed trying to destroy Rome. Agrippa says that he'll do what he can to help. So it seems that Marcus Brutus has now mysteriously disappeared, so Octavianus is going to head to the Senate House in order to speak with his mentor Cicero in order to find out where he could be. A note on the bulletin board explains the disappearance of Marcus, as he's been named as one of Vipsanius's accomplices. There are apparently many, and also on the list is the now dead Cassius. It's a busy day in the capital today as one of the accomplices is being shamed in the square. Speaking with Marius, he speaks of suspicious goings-on and bribes happening behind the closed doors of the Senate House. They are trying to purge everyone associated with the new Caesar. He explains that Cicero is under house arrest in the Senate House and that security will be tough. Thankfully, Marius pulled some strings and has been training the guard who is posted at the Senate House, and going there, Octavianus speaks with the guard and is allowed into the gardens. Sneaking through and gaining access once again, Octavianus finds Cicero. However, he's been stabbed, and he states the obvious and says that Vipsanius didn't kill Caesar. He rather cryptically says that it was them, meaning that Marcus did not kill Caesar. Cicero says there's another Brutus. He mentions something called the Congregation and the shrine in the temple, and he then dies. As he's grabbing the dagger, a maid spots Octavianus and assumes that he's killed Cicero, and she runs off screaming. Taking note of Cicero's final words, Octavianus heads for the temple. Arriving, he spots Marcus Brutus. A load of people lie there, dead. It seems that they've been dead for days. Marcus, too, mentions the Congregation, and that whoever created the Congregation has been killing the co-conspirators one by one. Getting his attention, Octavianus introduces himself and he tells Marcus that Cicero has been murdered. It's clear now that the co-conspirators are a shadowy organization made up of the most powerful people in Rome. The other Brutus is embedded at the center of this organization, and someone from within is cleaning up, so to speak, by killing anyone who was aware of the plot against Caesar. Before leaving, Marcus tells Octavianus to stop meddling. Leaving the temple, Macanus shows up with guards in tow. He, once again, seems concerned that these deaths will take attention away from the games. Octavianus says that he knows the truth, and that Vipsanius must be released. Macanus asks who killed Caesar, but the truth is that Octavianus has no proof that a group of assassins killed him. He asks Octavianus to bring him the proof. Speaking with Panzer in private, Octavianus tells him what's going on. Urgency is needed, as the gladiatorial games will be taking place very soon. Panzer then remembers Caesar's belongings. He recalls that Caesar was a gifted writer, and he thinks that he may have kept a journal or a record, which may offer up some valuable clues as to the identity of his killer. There's a rumour that Caesar's belongings were kept at Antonius' estate, so Octavianus heads there next. On the way, speaking to Marius at the Forum, he says that he's annoyed about Cicero's death, as his testimony could have proven Vipsanius' innocence. Anyway, heading to the estate, Octavianus gains entry again, and he overhears a maid talking about a tiger having escaped from somewhere in the bowels of the estate. On his journey throughout the estate, Octavianus eventually finds a way to access the basement. Here he encounters the tigers he'd heard about earlier on. They're obviously guarding something. Finding his way around them, he finds a key, and it's a key for a vault. Octavianus enters the vault and finds some very interesting information on various people, written by Caesar. The note was concerning the potential candidates that would succeed him. Regarding Antonius, he wrote that he is not suited for government and politics. He would plan to leave the problem in Macedonia to him. This could be referring to Macedonia being important to Roman military strategy, due to the location being a good place to repel any attacks by invaders from the north. He mentions Marcus Brutus, but says that he is selfish, and mentions Cassius, with him being a conniving backstabber. He mentions Cicero and Decius. However, Decius has a slight issue with morality, which we've already seen, and Caesar was considering sending him up north. Octavianus then hears voices outside the vault, and someone is asking if anyone has seen General Decius, as Antonius is looking for him. Apparently he left not too long ago, as he said that he was going to the temple, and apparently he seemed tense. Heading to the temple and walking along the temple path, a couple of pirates whistle at Octavianus and confront him. They are men that are working for Sextus, who says that he's been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Octavianus isn't a fighter, but he's agile, and evading the pirates he's able to cause them to catch a flame, and they jump off the cliff and into the river below. Now it's Sextus's turn. He jumps down from the aqueduct and tries to kill Octavianus, but he evades his attacks. About to be killed, he is saved by Claudia, who stops Sextus from carrying out the assassination, telling Octavianus to run. At the temple, he enters and hears the whimper of Marcus, who has just been killed by Decius, who leaves. Speaking with the dying Marcus, he confirms that the other Brutus is in fact Decius, and that Decius took advantage of anyone who was against Caesar's dictatorship. Decius created the congregation, but he only did this in order to gain power for himself. Marcus hands Octavianus a piece of paper, and on it are the details surrounding the plot to assassinate Caesar. He reveals that he was Caesar's bastard son, and he resented Marcus, leading to Marcus hating Caesar, hence why he ended up joining the co-conspirators. With Marcus dead, Octavianus heads outside and sees Macanus there waiting for him with some guards. He says he has the proof he requested, but instead, Macanus orders Octavianus to be arrested, stating that he can't have him ruining the upcoming games. Agrippa and Claudia, who is now back at the stable, are both concerned about the fact that Sextus is still missing. She tells Agrippa that Sextus found Octavianus, but tells him not to worry, that he's fine, that she got there in time to help him. Agrippa wants to know why Octavianus has been marked for assassination. The twins then show up saying that their mistress ordered the assassination. All moves according to the plan of the Great One, a plan that they say no one can stop, and they then disappear as quickly as they arrived. Claudia then runs off saying that she's going to find Sextus. In Sextus's office, Dama is in there, and he gives Agrippa a note from Sextus, and it states that he is away on important business, and that Agrippa needs to go there with the guard in the training area, as the finals will be taking place at the Great Arena. On the way, it appears that Agrippa is in the same carriage as his father. Vipsanius asks his son why he would become a gladiator. But anyway, arriving at the Colosseum, Antonius addresses the crowd, and dedicates the games to Caesar. The games begin. The first event Agrippa will be fighting in is a rescue mission. However, there are 3 hostages to save. As before, he fights through all the opponents trying to stop him, and he rescues all the hostages. The second event sees him fighting more beasts. The third event is an elimination round, and Agrippa must defeat all of the opponents to progress. And the fourth round is destroying the statues again. In the fifth event, Agrippa must compete in a siege, so slaying everyone in the way, he kills the leader and wins the event. The next one is a unique event. One of the opponents has a wooden sword called a rudis sword. Slaying enemies mercilessly, Agrippa kills the opponent with the sword and takes it to the plinth, hoists it into the air and wins the match. And the time has now come for the final round. Heading out into the arena, the crowd cheer for Agrippa. He is now to fight Decius. However, Agrippa is now even more battle-hardened and skilled than before. Decius wants revenge for his slain Valkros legion, and after cruelly taunting Agrippa in regard to him killing his mother, a cage emerges, with them both locked in a fight to the death. As expected, Decius is very strong, and during their long and arduous battle, however, they are interrupted.
Wait, if you kill me, they will kill your father next. Is that what you want? Foolish boy.
The father of Rome has returned. Julius Caesar has come back to us.
What? It cannot be. Can that be? No! This cannot be! He was dead! That time
When you stabbed him, that was not Julius Caesar. Vipsanius had warned Caesar that there was an assassination conspiracy, and he had arranged for an impostor.
What?
People of Rome! The assassination of Caesar was orchestrated by this man, Decius, and his group of co-conspirators. The co-conspirators have been killed by Decius, silenced forever. Vipsanius is innocent!
Father! Father!
Maecenas! What is the meaning of all this? There is no doubt that it was Caesar!
Antonius. Why are you sitting there? I do not remember naming you as my successor.
The main force behind Caesar's assassination conspiracy was you, Antonius.
That is absolutely ridiculous!
When you found out that Caesar had not chosen you as his official decreed successor, you influenced Decius to create the group of conspirators.
You had me murdered, then created a counterfeit will. And now you sit in the royal spectator box as the counterfeit emperor. We know everything.
Why? Why was I not named as your successor?
Here is a letter from our mistress. She says it is urgent.
What? Do you mean to tell me that I am not Caesar's successor? I refuse to believe such nonsense. How can that be? I am his right-hand man! Who else could be remotely qualified to take his place when he's gone?
If you think it is a lie, you should find out for yourself. Yes, look at the will that is kept at the temple.
I do not believe it. Who is this? He is to be the successor of Caesar? This is an outrage! I will not accept this rubbish!
So, who is the true successor of Julius Caesar?
Can you not see? It is this man, here. The man who shares the same air and countenance as Caesar. So much so that the people of Rome have already given him the title of Caesar. This man is the true successor of the late Julius Caesar. Octavianus.
They all know Sextus has really made a mess of everything for us.
Mecanus, you rat.
Fortunately for me, everything has gone quite smoothly, according to my plan.
Decius! Kill them!
Damn it! You are all finished!
You, stay back! Let me handle this.
Wow, so that was mental. Pretty good disguise. Anyway, Agrippa needs to finish off Decius so they continue their fight. Eventually, he defeats General Decius. Standing there, bleeding out, declaring himself as a genius and the best general that ever lived, he finally dies. However, Agrippa's fight is not done yet. He now must face a very pissed off Antonius. Just like Decius, Antonius is a formidable opponent, strong and fast. However, Agrippa is more than a match for him, and he defeats Antonius too. Antonius is carried away by guards, and speaking with Octavianus, Mecanus and Vipsanius, Mecanus reveals that he knew Octavianus was Caesar's true successor, as he was working for Caesar as his secret negotiator prior to his death. The way that the assassination plot was exposed was entirely the brainchild of Mecanus. He planned it all the way up to the revealing of the assassins' identities to the people of Rome. Agrippa, on the other hand, is just happy that his father is now safe. Unfortunately, this happy ending hasn't arrived just yet, as Sextus has commenced with his plan of destroying Rome, and he has attacked the Colosseum. He has arrived with a bunch of pirates behind him. He says that they are there for Antonius. While Sextus's pirates fight with the Roman guards, they manage to save Antonius and take him away. He cannot escape, so Agrippa runs after them. Spotting an archer taking aim at his son, Vipsanius runs to Agrippa and takes the arrow meant for him. Thankfully, it's not fatal, and Agrippa can leave his father in the care of Octavianus and Mecanus. He goes after Antonius. Fighting his way through the city streets, which are populated only by Sextus's goons, Agrippa meets up with Claudia, who is fighting off two of Sextus's men. Unfortunately for Agrippa and Claudia, the twins, named Iris and Charmaine, show up. They say that Antonius's work is not yet done, and that he must be allowed to escape the city. Now there's a lot more at play here than just the assassination of Caesar. Two spear-wielding warriors named Zedo and Gedo show up, and working as a team, Agrippa and Claudia deal with them both. The twins, still there, then run off and disappear. Going after Antonius, Agrippa and Claudia head for the port of Ostia, and they see Sextus's ship. Mowing down everyone in between them and Sextus, they are eventually confronted by him. He says that they have just missed Antonius, that he's out at sea by now. He says that taking Rome was his father's wish, and he made it his one true purpose. Claudia pleads with him to stop, but he attacks her. The inevitable battle between Agrippa and Sextus takes place, and Agrippa kills him. With him grievously wounded, Claudia comes to and runs over to him. Agrippa pleads with him to surrender. However, the port comes under bombardment by Antonius, who has clearly double-crossed Sextus in order to get what he wanted. A lighthouse starts to fall, and with Agrippa holding Claudia back, Sextus is crushed by the debris. Claudia is distraught, but they must continue on. Antonius, who has commanded Sextus's fleet, ends up in battle against the Roman navy. Fighting his way across various ships, Agrippa manages to reach the flagship and confronts Antonius. He's holding a ridiculous sword and says that this is just the beginning and that he has the power to change Rome and reshape it according to his preference. Agrippa's not buying what he's selling, and the two fight one another. Antonius' sword appears to be imbued with some sort of otherworldly power. However, he is again no match for Agrippa, and Antonius is eventually defeated. Stumbling over the deck, he laughs and boasts of his plans to create a new history. Octavianus shows up, and Antonius says that his spirit will live on in Rome, and that Octavianus will not have the power to change anything, and that they all deserve to live and suffer. He then falls into the sea, laughing maniacally. In the aftermath, the fleet sail back into Rome and are welcomed back as heroes by the people. A little later, Claudia says a final goodbye to Sextus, and she is joined by Agrippa and Octavianus. She tells them both that she is leaving Rome in order to travel the world, and as she begins to walk away, Agrippa asks her to come back sometime. After smiling at him, she leaves. Octavianus speaks with Agrippa and says that he vows to seek what's called the Pax Romana, and Agrippa says that he'll help him, whatever it takes. And the game then ends. Now obviously, like I said, the game took a different direction in terms of creative liberty. The biggest thing is how Caesar was killed, being that here he was killed by Decius, but in reality, according to historical accounts, Caesar was killed by a large number of disgruntled senators. Another is that Pompey, or Pompeius in the game at least, was apparently killed by Caesar's troops in battle, when in reality he fled when he realised his life was in danger, and was killed by the Egyptian king Ptolemy, who feared the wrath of Caesar. In the game, I guess him having been killed in battle by Caesar would make sense, given Sextus's desire to avenge his father. As for the Pax Romana, well, the Pax Romana is basically Roman peace, and 200 years of peace was actually achieved under the Pax Romana, which ended after the death of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius, after he had anointed his son Commodus as his successor. As you'd imagine, Commodus didn't do a very good job, and was assassinated in 192 AD. Finally, in a post-credits scene, the twins are heard, and they state that they must tell the Great One that they have reached the end of the beginning. Truth is that there was a sequel planned for this game, but development for that sequel actually turned into a little-known game called Dead Rising instead. I'm not mad about that at all, but what would be awesome is a remaster of this great game and then a sequel to carry the story forward. It's theorized that the mistress that the twins were working for is actually Cleopatra, who was King Ptolemy's sister. Having not only been married to Mark Antony, before this she also bore Caesar's son too, with his nickname being Caesarion. As for who the Great One is, well, I've got no idea. Again, remember that this is a fictionalized version of the assassination of Julius Caesar. While some characters in the story are real-life characters, they too have been fictionalized for the storyline. And that's pretty much it for this video on the story from Shadow of Rome. Like I said, one of my absolute favourite games growing up. I had a great time playing through this again and diving into the story. And if you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, but for now, take care and I will see you in the next one.